My name is Krissi Barr. I own a company called Barr Corporate Success. And what Barr Corporate Success does is we help individuals and companies figure out what they need to do, and then we work with them to implement it. And we do that through business processes development and developing leadership behaviors.
Okay. How long have you been in business?
Next year will be my 10th anniversary of Barr Corporate Success. Yeah.
And do you have employees on staff, or how do?
I use a number of outsourced part-time employees to work with me. It's kind of the most difficult thing is how do I replicate what I do over and over, and people will say, well, Krissi, but we want you and your energy and your ideas as the coach. So I've kind of boxed myself into a little bit of a corner where It's all me, and then support people that will do my research and PowerPoints and personal errands and all the things that the business needs from accounting and such. But right now it's all me. And that's actually why I wrote the book, to let more people understand the lessons of PAR.
What are the pivotal moments that you want to get across? How much do you include? What do you leave out? And just how do you decide where to put this wealth of information into a book form?
I wrote the book with my husband, who works for a major corporation, so it was entrepreneur and corporate guy writing a book. We wanted it to be what one could read on an airplane. So it wouldn't be so overwhelming that you go, oh, I can't get through this 500-page book, but something that people could remember. And we thought if we kept it simple on what are the defining things that one needs to do to dig out and get the right things done, what are those lessons? And we thought PAR, prioritize, adapt, be responsible. So we limited and stayed focused on what were the most important things around prioritizing, what were the most important things around adapting, what were the most important things around being responsible, and had to limit it just to those few things. There's probably another book coming down the future.
How did you start out? Tell me your startup story.
Like many people in Cincinnati, Ohio, they got their first job at Procter & Gamble company. And then I left Procter & Gamble, did a number of other companies and businesses, was able to grow them. And then I had an infamous ride, and one of the most important rides of my life, with Dan D'Amico, who is the chairman of Nucor Steel. Dan was just asked to become the president of Nucor. He was the plant manager in Blytheville, Arkansas. And he looks at me and he said, you're wasting your time in corporate America. What is it you really want to do? I said, Dan, I've always wanted to be a corporate coach. And he said, do it. You're good at people. You grab into their heart, take it out, twist it, put it back in, and then they know exactly what it is they need to do. So it took me about 2 more years to get that coaching business started. I went back to P&G to do a short-term project for them, and then I started my coaching business 10 years ago. So the start was I followed my passion, and I decided no more that I would let my wings be clipped. I could soar as high as I want in my own business.
We need more of you. We need more entrepreneurs. And what was it about you, and how do we have that happen again and again and again?
You take away some of the risk of doing it. So you have to get the family buy-in, you have to reduce the risk there. From a government perspective, we have to reduce the risk and also reward the upside for when somebody says, you know what, I'm going to step out there, do it, and not punish success. It's a very, very scary thing to be standing out there naked to the world, all by yourself saying, this is my business, I'm doing this now, because the failure rate can be so high. But go for it, because I always say, the difference between average and excellence is commitment. And when you make that commitment that you're going to start a business and move forward with it, you'll get the right things done and you'll succeed.
You had those same risks in front of you. Was it just courage and commitment?
With my husband's income in the corporate world, had I fallen flat on my face, we wouldn't lose our house, we could still make our mortgage payments, we could still buy groceries. So some of the financial risks I didn't have, and that made it easier. That said, would I take all those financial risks? Heck yeah, I'd rather slip my wrist than go back into the corporate world again and work for somebody.
You mentioned earlier you're just one person, and you've sort of branded yourself as this strong individual who brings this message. How high can you grow, and you risk sort of losing yourself in the process, which is your brand?
How high can I go? What an interesting question. I believe I can soar. And when I look at the different kind of directions I can take the business, and my vision has always been where strategy brings action, action brings success. And here at the Inc. conference, we have 3 of my clients that are celebrating their rapid growth. So I almost feel like gosh darn it, I'm part of their team too. So I get some of that growth satisfaction through them. This has been a very interesting and difficult year for me. In December of 2010, I found out I had breast cancer, and I finished chemotherapy in May of 2011, ergo the short hair. Despite going through chemotherapy, I decided it could take my breast, it could take my hair, but it's not going to take my business, and I'm not going to miss one day of any client engagement. I'm not going to ever call a customer and say, I can't be there that day. And I didn't miss one day. And the exciting news about it is, I'm having a record year. Go figure, the year that I have, had to deal with cancer, my business is up 15%. So I think if you have the drive and the passion to really grow your business, say no to some of the things that can become distractions and stay focused, you can still grow your business.
Something like cancer hits, it has to rock everything about your being. I mean, your your priorities. I mean, interesting that you relied on, your entrepreneurship to sort of ground you during that earth-shattering time.
I practiced PAR, the lessons from Plugged. I thought priorities. 1, I want to live. 2, I don't want to lose the momentum in my business. Then I had to adapt, and I had to go from a 70-hour work week to a 60-hour work week. And a lot of people go, that's still working a lot, but to me that kind of felt like vacation. And then I had to hold myself responsible for changing some of the things I did, such as starting to meditate more often, taking more time for me, saying no to things that I didn't want to do or go to, or events or functions along those lines. And the biggest thing I found out was that I was a human doing and not a human being. And so I think an entrepreneur, whether you have a serious illness or not, needs to take a look at, am I so busy doing that I'm not being? And there's a distinct difference. And when you make that switch to becoming a more of a human being, it doesn't chase business away. It actually makes you more of a magnet that business comes to you because they want that energy. They want to capture that energy from you.
You mentioned you work with some of the other Inc. 500 companies. What do you learn when you work with an entrepreneurial company, especially some of the energetic companies that are here?
Sometimes the owner is off in a gazillion different directions, and their staff has to change as quickly as they do, and sometimes that can bring a lot of animosity on the team, stress, feeling of being overwhelmed. My job then has to kind of ground them and say, okay, what is good growth? What is reasonable growth? What happens if you grow so fast that you actually fall off the precipice, as opposed to just continue on what can the company sustain? Because sometimes you can grow faster than the rest of your company can keep up, or that you can supply your customers, and that would be an incredibly devastating thing for many companies. You also catch up in their excitement with the growth. The mind of an entrepreneur is always going, and you're always thinking about, what can I do next, or how can I do what I do better, or what angle with this customer can I work with? And I find that taking those energies and then saying, is that relevant to your core business? Is that relevant to why you started this company? If it is, boy, let's push, pedal to the metal and move forward with it. If it is not, then let's think about taking all that energy around it, putting it into a separate company with that being a separate focus, because otherwise, if you get too far away from your original vision, you may not succeed at all. You may cannibalize the existing business that has been growing so well.
What do you do to size up a company? Because you got to get in and sort of catch the environment early on to try to make some. What are some of the things that you're looking for?
The leaders set the tone for how the company is going to do. So if you have a leader that has a sense of urgency, that's great. If you have a leader who's very active, that's another thing. If you have a leader that says, we're giving back, that's another thing. Now, if you have a leader who says fix them and has an ego that just is outside of their being, then I may say, 1, they need a lot of my help, or 2, I'm not going to think as strongly about how well they're going to do. But the leaders set the tone. So the very first thing I do is I start asking people in the company some pinpointed questions about, if they had a magic wand, what would they do in the first 90 days? If you could make any decision without any authority, asking for any authority, no restrictions on money, what would you do? There's 3 areas that you should spend your money on if you came into $1 million. Are you going to spend it on sales and marketing? Are you going to spend it on operations? Or are you going to spend it on technology? Where do you spend it? That tells me a lot about a company. The reality is you have to spend it on all 3. But if they're really focused just on one area or another, I go, you know what, you might be slightly out of balance. It's like having too many carbohydrates and not having enough protein. You really need to make sure you have a balance of all those ingredients to go into your business. So a lot of questions around the leadership and then the processes and how they emphasize their business.
Thank you so much. Good luck with the book.
Thank you.
And keep going strong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.